you're always looking to other people and seeing things working out for them and seeing things taking off, and then you're doing very similar things, whether you've done it before or just after, and they're not having the same impact. That can be really disheartening, and you're just wondering, what is it about what we're doing that isn't working? Sometimes your users do know what's best and you should build to them, but other times you think you're Steve Jobs and you think, oh no, they don't know what they want, and you try to go a bit ahead of yourself. So yeah, it's just worth checking your ego, because 99% of the time you just build what they ask for. You've got like the imposter syndrome of, is my product good enough in the first place? You're wondering if you have credibility for it. You also don't want to ram it down people's throat all the time. You want to do a soft sell. But as you say, yeah, if you're not talking about it, then who else is going to talk about it?
In today's episode, my guest is Mike Heap. Mike is the founder of MyAskAI, an AI customer support solution. Mike started his career working at Ernst & Young, had some roles as product manager and a product development consulting company before fully going with MyAskAI. Within 1.5 years, they had over 40,000 users using their tool. So I would just say, let's dive in and get to know more about his journey. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks very much, Joran.
We're doing this live in London, outside, so I hope the audio is good. Let's just dive right in. Like, when did you start at MyAskAI?
So we started in February 2023, just at the kind of height of the AI boom.
Yeah. And currently, what is your ARR right now?
We've just touched 300K ARR.
Yeah. And how many employees do you have?
It's still just the service, so just me and my co-founder Alex right now.
Is there any separation between product and service revenue, or is it purely product?
So we have some enterprise clients for who we build some kind of specific custom features for. So we have a little bit of kind of development income, but I would say it's 95% plus product income.
Yeah, ideal state.
Yeah.
And in one sentence, what does MyAskAI do?
So we provide AI customer support agents to B2B SaaS businesses to help them deflect and decrease their support ticket volume.
Nice. Let's dive a little bit into you. Is this your first startup?
It's my first profitable startup. I've tried like 5 or 6 kind of other businesses prior to that, but yeah, it's the first one that's actually gone somewhere.
Nice. How old are you?
35.
Nice. And have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, pretty much since I was a teenager. I was always watching The Apprentice, Dragon's Den, UK Apprentice that is, not with Donald Trump. And yeah, I never had a lemonade stand or anything like that. I think the first business I ever had was I was selling children's car seats because there was like a change in EU legislation or something. But yeah, always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
Nice. And it's interesting because you started like as corporate as you can start,
yeah, pretty much.
To going a startup journey.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because I was there, I ticked all the boxes. I'm a chartered accountant, did audit, financial services, all that kind of stuff. But I always tried to find some angle to the job where I could do something a bit more entrepreneurial. So I started like an innovation team that used AI within the company. I founded like a fintech business development team. I would always look for the angle where you could do something a bit more interesting, basically.
Yeah. And do you have an end goal defined with MyAskAI?
I think we basically just want to build like the best AI responses that we can. And I think at the moment, like we're competing on a level with people like Intercom, Zendesk. Like we've had customers coming to us from those products. And it's an interesting one because AI kind of levels the playing field for a lot of people. We've only been doing this 15 months, but we're probably some of the most experienced people in the world when it comes to RAG, which is the kind of technology that we use to answer these questions. It's one of these interesting states where we can be at the forefront despite only having kind of 15 months experience doing it, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's quite nice because you're still with the two of you, but still already with such a huge user base. Is this also what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
So I think originally we wanted to solve big problems and we were always looking for kind of meaning in something. But then as we developed the products and as we moved to customer support isn't something that has a huge existential meaning to us, but it is something that is a real product problem. And both of us by background are product managers, and we just love solving problems and trying to find ways to make better user experiences and better products. And so that's the thing that kind of really interested us, is when we started thinking about it, we started coming up with ways that we could build these more interesting features that other people weren't doing. And then I guess the second thing that motivates me massively is just seeing other builders around me, like on Twitter, on LinkedIn, just seeing kind of all of these different people creating things with very little resource. I think those are probably the main things.
Yeah, you get motivation from other people
massively.
being out there. If we go back to, you already explained a little bit, but how did you actually came up with the idea of MyAskAI and how did it evolve?
Yeah, sure. In kind of autumn 2022, I met Alex for the first time, my co-founder, and we initially were put together by a friend to talk about contracting as product managers. And immediately we just started talking about GPT-3, the kind of technology OpenAI released it around that time. And we started thinking of like ways that we could use it to build different products. And we started off by building something that would generate students' university personal statements. And then we pivoted that to making a fine-tuned model platform, which would basically allow you to upload data and then create an AI model off the back of it. And then we got a few sales and some traction, some awareness through that. We started seeing how people were using the products, and combined with seeing how they were using it, mostly in a kind of customer support or question answering type of way, we also saw that people on Twitter were building these products which were allowing you to talk to a podcast or talk to a book. And so we decided that at that point we really need to build a platform that allowed anyone to do that without code.
It's now a journey of 1.5 years, something like that. Have you always known from the beginning it's going to be such a success?
I think initially, when we launched this no-code model builder initially, and we got a few $1,000s a month in revenue from that, but definitely not enough to support us both as we live in London. But the thing that kind of really made us realize that we were onto something was we actually gave users of the original product an option to sign up to a pre-sale. And so literally it was just a kind of fork in the process where users could select one of two use cases how they wanted to use it. If they selected the original one, they just go through the product flow as normal. If they selected what we were proposing as the new one, it just took them to a payment page where they pay $99. We explained the product a little bit just on the page, and then we would look to see how many people signed up. And within 2 weeks, we got about $5,000 in revenue from that, which was more than revenue we had from the original product, from just some text on a page. Yeah. And that was when we realized that this is where the demand is. And so that's when we went fully into building that product.
And what did you do with the people who actually entered their credit card details and were willing to pay it? Did you grab the money?
Yeah. So we basically committed to them that we would build it within a month.
Okay.
So we had nothing built at the time, but we were confident we knew how to build it. It actually took Alex about 2 weeks, of which half of that time he was on holiday, much to his wife's chagrin. But we were able to put that together and release it. And then after 2 weeks, we put it out to these new users. We got some feedback from them, iterated it, and then we put it out to everyone else after that.
Yeah, that's really nice idea, like selling before you already have something. Like, would you recommend that other founders do that as well, I guess, if they want to take a new journey or take a new direction?
Yeah, I think as long as you can succinctly describe it, and as long as you're confident you can deliver on it, at the end of the day, you can always refund it if you don't end up building it. And I've seen numerous kind of products where that's the case, but it gives you such a strong signal that it is something that you should be building. Or if they're willing to buy it based on the idea of it, then you're going to get way more sales if you actually have the thing that you can show them.
And how did you get people to actually get to the page and actually buy it from you?
Yeah, so that was largely because we already had this kind of initial product that we'd started, and we were getting maybe a couple of thousand visitors a week onto that page. Basically, it was kind of a group of people who we knew were interested in this technology already, and so we would just fork them through that flow.
Yeah. So having that user base already, having that community definitely helps.
But we only had it for kind of a month prior to it. It wasn't something that we had kind of built up over years of an audience and things. Yeah.
You can basically do it in a short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, nice. And when we look at your journey, like now always it's easy to say 1.5 years, 40,000 plus users. What is a rock bottom moment for you, either financially or personal?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple. So one was definitely when we were at the point where we were growing, but we weren't quite earning enough to live off. And so there was a period where I had to go back to contracting while running the business. And I basically had a very good friend who helped me get that contracting role, and was very generous of him to help me out in that way. But I realized after working for like a week into that 3-month contract that it was just not feasible and it wasn't what I was enjoying. And I basically had this decision where I had to go all in, because if it didn't work out, I wouldn't have enough money to pay the rent. And I wouldn't advise people doing this, but I was just getting so down from having to go through these meetings in this company and go through this process that it wasn't worth it. And so I just committed fully into it. I guess the second kind of rock bottom point was because we had such a tailwind basically behind us with building a product in the AI space, that kind of gave us a false sense of like success in that we grew quite quickly to a kind of good revenue number. And then when that kind of plateaued or when it subsided or the first day that you don't get a sale post that, then you start questioning everything and doubting everything. And it was probably a few months into that before we realized that no, we can't just keep doing what we're doing. We have to change it up. We have to look how people are using the products and we have to build something different. But that was difficult because you're seeing everyone else's products all kind of exploding in the AI space and you're wondering why yours isn't.
I think that's one thing you relate also to what you said at the beginning, right? You're following people on Twitter, you're following their success stories. You often see success stories on social media where you think things are going really well and your startup it isn't. Was it one of these cases where you saw success stories but where you were struggling?
Yeah, for sure. I think like you're always looking to other people and seeing things working out for them and seeing things taking off, and then you're doing very similar things, whether you've done it before or just after, and they're not having the same impact. That can be really disheartening, and you're just wondering, what is it about what we're doing that isn't working? But I think like the lesson we've taken from that is that everyone's journey is different, and you can't copy and paste growth strategies, distribution strategies across products, because everyone has different strengths. Everyone has different ways of doing things, and everyone's businesses are built in different ways.
Like this question was more like personal, right? You hit rock bottom with financial, going back to contractor work. Yeah. Has there been any like big company challenges where it was up or down? Did it go really well or termination of the company?
Yeah, I can talk about recently we had probably one of our biggest enterprise contracts that we were working towards. We spent a month working with them to try and answer their questions, to build features around them to make sure that they were happy with the product. And after all that, we got to a point where it came down to something that was outside of our control, why they decided not to go with us. And that was quite hard because like we were starting to get this traction with them. We were seeing more of these enterprise sales, and then to suddenly get a bit of a knockback thinking, oh, maybe we're not big enough, maybe we're not polished enough. Like that was quite disheartening, I think.
Yeah. And I guess like it's recent, so how did you deal with it? Are you now working on the next enterprise client and make sure you fix it?
Yeah, so I think it's just about always taking like the positives from it that you can. And I think with that one, in some ways it was good that there was nothing more that we could do. It meant that like we gave it our all. And we also took the perspective that all of the feedback that they gave us, all of the product tweaks and all of the things that we could do to improve it, made the products more hardened. It made it better for any future enterprise customer that's going to come in. They're not going to have those questions. They're not going to have those issues. And so we're just building a stronger and stronger foundation for future businesses.
Yeah, that's nice. At least taking the learnings out of it, making sure that things don't happen again. Yeah,
exactly.
Are you struggling to find people and companies which have access to your ideal customer profile? At Redditus, we just launched the second side of the marketplace, which allows you to search, filter, and contact B2B SaaS affiliates which have access to the audience you're looking for. We do this by leveraging first-party data sources. Want to learn more? Go to getredditus.com. And I guess coming back to, or zooming out a little bit, so 40,000 users right now, like what has been your go-to-market strategy? Like how did you take it from the beginning to where you are right now?
Yeah, it's probably not a good lesson in entrepreneurship, but it was a bit of a spray and pray in a way, because when AI hype was at its peak in March last year, there were just so many growth hack type things. We would post our products in AI directories. That was a good way to get initial customers. And so we post in all of these. We would reply to big accounts on Twitter. That was working for a while because you had all these AI influencers who were talking about all these new products, and then you would just drop your product in as a reply. We did some stuff on Reddit as well, some sponsored Reddit posts that went well. And we did all the AI newsletters when they were booming as well. And I think The lesson with all of that is that they worked, but only temporarily. Very quickly, they get saturated. Very quickly, people see your product and then it's gone. And so we've now started trying to move towards things which are more sustainable distribution channels. So looking more into like SEO, experimenting more with Google Ads, and looking at things like affiliate marketing more. And yeah, they're probably the kind of main channels we're looking into.
Yeah, and if you can summarize it in a little way where we're going to give advice to other founders, do things that don't scale at the beginning, which you kind of did, and they might be short-term things you're going to do, but in the end they work for you. You found out different ways to do it, and then from now you're going to work more towards like organic or long-term growth strategies.
Yeah, exactly. You're just looking for the little things that you can do to just jumpstart the business initially. Anything that you can do that you can experiment with. This is where the kind of growth hacks really help get you going, because a lot of the time in the AI space, it is going to be the first product is going to take the lion's share of the business, and so you just need to try and get traction as quickly as possible. And then once you've got that, you need to start really doubling down into the things that are more sustainable.
Yeah. And have you made any critical decisions, like if I haven't done X, Y, Z, then I wouldn't be here right now?
I guess two things. One would be if we didn't act fast on the opportunity. So I think we were seeing all these talk to your podcast, talk to your book type products coming up on Twitter. It was inevitable that people were going to start coming out with these ideas or a platform for them. And there were a number that came up at the same time as us. And so I think being able to act on that, especially using, we used a no-code platform called Bubble to build our product, which allowed us to build it super quick. As I say, a couple of weeks with kind of no previous experience of building something like this. So acting fast definitely helped us. And the second one is probably the pivot towards customer support from a kind of much broader product, which has allowed us really to refine our positioning and to really focus the product on this specific use case, where before it was a lot broader and we didn't know exactly how to market things or which features to decide on or prioritize, because there's just so many that you could.
Yeah. And you said an interesting thing, you built it on Bubble. Is it still built on Bubble right now?
Yeah, the entire of the front end of the product is all built on Bubble, and to be honest, I can't imagine doing it another way, and I would highly recommend it, especially for an MVP, because it just allows us to respond so quickly and stay so aligned with kind of user feedback and requests, because so far we haven't found anything that we can't build on Bubble. We have widgets that we've got on other people's sites, we have an AI generated insights tool. Like pretty much anything that anyone else can do, we can do on Bubble, which is quite something that not many people expect really. So yeah. The back end of the product is all Python, but yeah, all of the front end, everything you see visually is Bubble.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's a good thing to start with an MVP. That's how I see Bubble, or saw Bubble until now. But you guys have so many users, you already have such big usage on the app, and you still are there. Are you thinking of switching away from it or keeping it on Bubble for now?
It's something that we've spoke about quite a few times. Initially, our mindset was always at some point we'll need to switch from Bubble. But realistically, the trade-offs that you often see with it, sometimes speed is one and stability can be another. Stability can be solved by moving over to some of their enterprise tiers because you get your own servers and all that kind of stuff. And the speed actually is less of an issue for people, and actually the biggest kind of blocker in speed is actually OpenAI rather than Bubble. So as OpenAI gets faster, then we're just going to get better and faster. So when we think about like the differences between code versus no code, we can't really see many of the advantages to code that are going to matter to our users. And we'd rather just be able to keep building as a very small team, not have to do pull request reviews, debugging things. Like it means I can also do things as a non-technical co-founder. I can go and make changes and investigate things as well. So I think, it's been such an advantage to us, especially in such a fast-moving field like AI.
Yeah, interesting. And when we zoom out a little bit again, we talked about challenges, rock bottom moment. Did you had any big failures you made? Because you had, for example, the enterprise client where it wasn't your fault, right? Yeah. But any big failures you can share?
I think I still, in some way, think we're failing at getting our product out there, because when people try our products, we get a very good response to it, and we have good kind of conversion, activation, retention, etc. So I think the one of the big failures is with marketing. I still don't think that we've really nailed our distribution strategy. I think we've done lots of little things that have worked in a little way, but we haven't found a repeatable kind of process and distribution channel. We know when people sign up for our products, when they use it, when they test it out, that conversion is good, activation is good, but we just can't find that one approach that allows us to really scale and go all in on. And we've seen other similar businesses who have found those kind of routes. And so in some ways, I think that our biggest failing is our ability to really market ourselves well.
A lot of SaaS founders say find one channel which works really well
exactly.
for you, but you haven't found that one channel which...
We get lots of things from lots of places, and some are showing a bit more promise now, but also it takes quite a while sometimes to see what is going to work. Like SEO, you're not going to find in a month, you have to do it 6 months, 12 months, etc. to see if it works. Same with like affiliate, you need to really invest in that as a channel to see if you are going to get the kind of returns from it. And so yeah, I think it's just a question of like, when do you stop one channel and then double down on another? That's been a big kind of debate point for us.
Yeah. And when you look at like how you grow the company, because you're still with the two of you, big user base, growing the ARR, are you using any processes, frameworks? Like how do you manage your company right now?
Yeah, we basically communicate all through Slack, even just the two of us. We only meet up actually once a week. We meet up for a lunch and a half day kind of session where we'll go through the bigger decisions and the bigger points that we need to discuss. But the rest of that is all just Slack, where we go through things asynchronously. We both work pretty core hours of say 8, half 8 till half 6, and then we will obviously work outside of those hours if we want to, or if a big issue comes up or something. So I think that's how we use Slack. We then, probably other biggest tool that we use is like Notion. So we have a very basic kind of roadmap in Notion, which is like, here's a big long list of all the things we want to build. They go in one place. And then we have our kind of starting soon, next, bugs, testing, etc. And that just gives us more discipline. It's not over-engineered in any way. We don't go through any kind of strict prioritization frameworks or anything like that, but it's just a way that knows what is like the most important thing that we need to be working on that's going to move the needle for the business, basically. And I think that's what you have to constantly reassess. It's okay, over this next week, am I doing the things that are going to make a real difference? Because it's really easy to just get into kind of the weeds quickly.
When you say move the needle, make a difference, does it mean what is going to get us the most MRR or new big clients coming in? What do you look at?
Yeah, so at the moment, like, as I mentioned, marketing is one of our weakest areas. And so realistically, we're confident that kind of all the other kind of areas of the products, while they can be improved, they're good enough right now. And so for us, it's just about building awareness of the product and trying to be seen by more people. Because as I say, I think our conversion we can work on, but it's good enough, but we're just not getting enough people through the door in the first place. And so for us, that's our kind of main priority right now.
Yeah. How do you leverage new technologies like AI? MyAskAI, it answers the question, but how deep is it embedded? Because you are running on OpenAI, right?
Yeah. So we use GPT-4o, the newest model from OpenAI. So yeah, all of our products uses it. We use it in loads of different ways. We use it to answer questions. We use it to create insights from these conversations. We use it to summarize conversations when they're handed over to a person as well. So we use it in lots of different ways within our products. Then operationally, we also use it in quite a few ways. We use it to do some kind of categorization of leads as they're coming in. We use it obviously Alex uses Cursor AI, which is like an AI coding tool that he swears by now. And we use ChatGPT on the regular for kind of little questions or tweaks or writing little bits of code or anything like that. Yeah, wherever we can, we look to use it. And I think really we want to try and stay as a two-person business. And so we're always looking for the ways in which rather than hire someone, we can just automate first.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting challenge. Like we've been looking into it as well, but it's hard. Like I guess some things you need a person to do certain things, or you need to set up the processes where you need a person to actually do it. So I guess like how do you manage that? Like how do you look at things? So you look at a certain challenge, or we want to do X, how can we automate it using AI or any other kind of way?
We start by trying to bring in some experts for processes. So for example, we want to do more SEO stuff. And so we bring in agencies to help us understand and learn. Like, they're going to create the blog posts, they're going to tell us what things we need to look for. Oh, should we pay for this guest blog post or something like that? And we look at all those things and learn from them first. Then once we feel we've got the 80% or so of that knowledge, then we might look to say, okay, is this something that we could do ourselves? Similar with Google Ads, we hired an agency for a little while, and we found that there wasn't really anything that they were doing that we weren't capable of doing. And given how we know our products as well as anyone, there's always going to be that mismatch in communication with them. In the end, what we've done is we've gone from agency to doing it ourselves with a once quarterly review or once monthly review by an external party, just to check we're on track. And then once we've got a good method for that down, then we would look to automate it. But yeah, I think there's so many tools out there as well at the moment. If you look in AI directories, I did something the other day where I was meant to be typing in a load of different values into some field in the product, and it would have taken me like 15 minutes. I looked online, found a little workflow tool with AI that allowed me to click a button and then it just filled them in automatically. So I think sometimes it's just a case of looking for these things, because there's not much that AI can't do, and if you can find the right tools to do it.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing you said, like you will look for consultants or you will look for agencies who can actually already have the knowledge, educate you on the topic, and then from there you take it forward either yourself or using AI. I think that's really important, because you can always look for a tool which can do it for you, but in the end, I would also say like you need expert knowledge to actually get the things set up, and then after that you can take over yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise you're just going to spend ages trying to figure out what's the advice you should listen to or not.
Yeah, exactly. If you could do it again from the start, what would you do differently?
I'd definitely go harder on content and trying to create more hype around the products, because at the time when we launched, all products were getting traction based on videos, based on hype and all that kind of stuff. And I think we didn't do enough to lean into that. I think we should have created more video content. That's obviously massive and gaining more and more traction now. And I just don't think we really shouted about what we were doing enough. I think we put something out that we thought was very impressive and thought that it would, we did some bits, but we thought it would get more traction on its own. And I think the other thing is we wouldn't want to make calls that go against own opinions, and that really held us back. So like for a while, we had the product where you could just ask one question and that was it, when everyone was crying out for a chat product. And we just didn't like the pattern of chat. And so we stayed away from it, when really we should have just left our ego at the door and just built that, because it was going to be the predominant UX pattern basically.
Yeah, and I guess like the lesson here is also listen to your customers, what they're asking.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like sometimes your users do know what's best and you should build to them, but other times you think you're Steve Jobs and you think, oh no, they don't know what they want, and you try to go a bit ahead of yourself. So yeah, it's just worth checking your ego, because 99% of the time you just build what they ask for. Yeah. And regarding the first thing you said, like creating more hype, creating more content, I think this is something I personally struggle, and I think a lot of SaaS founders struggle as well, right? Like you want to provide a lot of value, and I don't talk that much about the product, but ideally you do need to talk more about the product. You do need to get it out there, because you're the only one selling it. Exactly, and it's difficult because you've got like the imposter syndrome of is my product good enough in the first place? You're wondering if you have credibility for it. You also don't want to ram it down people's throat all the time. You want to do a soft sell. But as you say, if you're not talking about it, then who else is going to talk about it? You might get a few customers who are very vocal about it, and that's great, but I think it still needs to predominantly come from the founder, and you just need to find ways to tell a great story around your product. Yeah. If we go to the end question, so practical advice for founders who are in a certain revenue milestone. So what kind of advice would you give SaaS founders who's just starting out and growing to 10K monthly recurring revenue? I'd probably say to look for your distribution channels first. I think that's the hardest part. Like building products now is super easy. There's so many resources, there's so many tools that you can build an MVP of something really quickly. The really tough thing is finding what the distribution channel is going to be. And I think like now, if I was starting something else that I wanted to really grow, I would probably look for a distribution partner who is really already influential in that field. It's some advice I heard from another podcast, and I think it's so relevant now, because products grow so quickly that if you don't immediately have the distribution, then you just get flooded with copycats and it just becomes hyper competitive. Whereas, yeah, if you've got that partner, they're basically worth their weight in gold or equity because they already have that reach, and it's going to massively increase your chances of actually making something work.
Yeah. I do see a challenge here because we're an affiliate marketing tool which kind of does the same thing, right? Where you ask somebody else to promote you. But I think it's always hard. Like what you mentioned, equity or being more involved, that has to be almost in place, because otherwise how can you ask somebody else to promote your product if it's just out there, right? Like they have to believe in it.
There has to be an incentive, right? Yeah.
I think that's going to be a really important one. And if we grow to 10K MOR and you're on your journey yourself right now, so this is going to be a big step towards 10 million ARR. Like, I guess, what kind of things would you maybe even advise yourself on how to get there?
I think we're going to have to create more content and create more of a brand around the product. I still don't think that if you covered up the name of our products, people would be able to tell you that it's MyAskAI. I don't think if you were to look at our copy, people would be able to say that. And I think that is something that is very important as you get towards those kind of numbers. And I think the other thing is coming up with a good way of generating a sales pipeline, specifically for kind of enterprise customers, like coming up with good playbooks and practices of how you're going to do that. At the moment, we have quite an ad hoc approach. We'll do some outreach, we'll get some inbound, follow up on them, and we're quite good at working closely to close them. But I think coming up with a scalable approach to doing that is going to be the only way that we get to that kind of scale.
Yeah, and especially if you want to stay with two people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you have success with the manual outreach right now. It's going to be.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sam Altman was saying there's going to be $1 billion one-person company. That means we need to make a $2 billion two-person company. So that's the goal, and we're always thinking, what are the constraining factors that are preventing us from doing something like that? And yeah, we just want to keep trying to find ways. And I imagine as we do that, we'll also probably build tools ourselves that help us. AskAI in the first place was partly built because we couldn't handle our own customer support, and so we put it in place to solve our own problem first, and that gave us a lot of learnings as well. So yeah.
Nice. If you can give one last piece of advice to other SaaS founders, what would you advise them to do or maybe to avoid?
Don't build another AI customer support agent. There are enough of them and we have enough competition.
Keep believing in your vision.
I think for us, it's very easy, especially in AI, to get attracted by the shiny new thing, to see a new tool or technology and try to apply it into your product. And you end up with these kind of Frankenstein products, when really you should listen to and look at all these announcements, but then you should decide whether it is actually going to meaningfully benefit your customers. And so there's a number of new AI releases from OpenAI that we haven't incorporated into the products just because we don't see the value in them. Whereas like the ones that we do, we will jump on immediately and incorporate. So I think like being able to do that over a long time, and even though we've only been going 15 months, there's been so much hype that we could have gone in like 10 different directions or sold the product a few times. But I think the people who are going to succeed are going to be the ones that just do the boring things day after day, are going to be the ones who come out on top.
Nice. If you want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter at Mike_Heap_. Catchy. I'm on LinkedIn as Mike Heap, and you can email me at mike@myaskai.com.
Cool. Thank you for coming on. I guess for the people listening, we're going to have another poll at this one, and we're going to add a question to the show. So make sure you check those out if you're listening on Spotify. So we want to hear your feedback. We're live from SaaS to London. Mike Heap, thank you for coming on. We'll add the links to your Twitter and LinkedIn so people can reach out. Thanks for coming on today.
Awesome. Thanks. Pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching this show of the Grow Your B2B SaaS podcast. You made it till the end, so I think we can assume you liked this content. If you did, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you like this content, feel free to reach out if you want to sponsor the show. If you have a specific guest in mind, if you have a specific topic you want us to cover, reach out to me on LinkedIn. More than happy to take a look at it. If you want to know more about Reditus, feel free to reach out as well. But for now, have a great day and good luck growing your B2B SaaS.